Well, everybody, it is that time of year again. WWDC starts on Monday, June 10th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. And in this video, we're going to talk about everything that we expect from iOS 18 to iPadOS 18, macOS, watchOS, and even VisionOS. Let's talk about it. So before we actually get started, leave a comment down below of what you want Apple to release during WWDC, whether it's iOS related or iPadOS related. Always curious to know what your expectations are and also what your wishes are, because we all know there's a big difference between each of them. But without further ado, let's start off with iOS 18, because that's probably going to be the one that's going to get the most amount of attention, and then all of those features are going to trickle down into things like macOS, iPadOS, and even VisionOS. So I did recently make a video about the top 6 features coming to iOS 18 that aren't AI related, so I definitely recommend checking that one out, and it'll be the first link in the description down below for you guys to see exactly what's going on over there, because Apple is going to be focusing heavily on AI for this new WWDC, and they're going to trickle down AI into everything that happens inside of your iPhone and iOS and all the native Apple applications. So I do think we're finally going to get a version of Siri that's going to be comparable with something like Google Assistant, because for years now, Siri has always been lackluster. Sure, for the most part, it can answer some factual questions, it can surf the web, but once you start adding context clues and you start trying to have an ongoing conversation, or you want a few more kind of intricate details done, Siri kind of just loses its way and then just sends you to Safari or doesn't even know what to do at that point. So hopefully, integrating with ChatGPT, which is what's going to be happening and probably going to be announced during WWDC, will be a big deal, not only for Siri, but then like I mentioned earlier, for a bunch of native applications where this is going to be now integrated in and built in to make your life a little bit easier. Some things that it can trickle into, aside from just Siri, is going to be creating custom emojis based on user description, photo editing via written and spoken commands, transcription for audio recordings, which is already really good, but imagine now with ChatGPT integrated into iOS 18, it's just going to be magical. Smart summaries for Safari searches, which I already love Gemini for on the Google side, and then Xcode stuff, and then of course wellness and fitness coaching, which I think is going to be a big player, especially if you are an Apple Fitness subscriber like I am myself. And then some quick things to take into consideration when it comes to iOS 18 outside of the AI front. Apple's going to really focus on personalization and customization, because again, we're in a situation now where it's iOS 18, which means we've had 18 iterations of this iOS, which means for the most part it has fully matured, so don't expect a complete overhaul visually of iOS 18, but we will get some new customizations to the home screen, like being able to now put icons and widgets wherever we want on the screen. We got a little bit of a glimpse of this with iPadOS 17 last year, with widgets being able to be placed anywhere on the screen, but still not with the applications. But like I said, go check out our latest video for more information on iOS 18 and some of those other features. So now let's go over to iPadOS 18. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the AI stuff that's going to be announced on iOS 18 will probably trickle down to things like iPadOS 18 as well as macOS 15, because that's just how Apple has been doing things recently, right? They kind of put all those features they announced with iOS, and then they also give it to iPadOS because they are so similar and they will be using the same functionality and the same type of feature sets. But with iPadOS 18, my expectations, I'm trying to make sure that they're tempered and they're realistic, because obviously I always want the world with iPadOS 18. I want something magical to happen, so it really is a full-fledged computer for not only myself, but for pretty much the vast majority of people, which I do think Apple can do. Apple can probably give us some sort of macOS version and iPadOS version, where if it's docked on the Magic Keyboard, it can be macOS-like, and then when it's removed from the Magic Keyboard, it can still be that tablet and iPadOS first kind of mentality. But again, I don't really think that's going to be happening, but leave some comments down below if that is something that you do want. One thing that we know, like almost for certain, is that Apple is finally giving us a native calculator app with iPadOS 18. I know it's been years now, and Apple has said that they don't really create anything unless they can really make it the Apple way and have a good reason for it. But finally, we should be getting a calculator application, so no longer do we have to download third-party ones or pay for some or deal with ad-specific calculators and things like that. So that's going to be a nice little addition to iPadOS 18. And then another huge one that we know is coming for certain, because Apple did give us a press release earlier last month, is going to be eye tracking through accessibility settings. Now, I think eye tracking through accessibility settings is going to be very similar to how you interact with VisionOS. So if you've ever had the chance to go demo the Vision Pro, or you do own one, then you know exactly what that is like and how magical that is. So bringing that over to iPadOS 18 to be able to then just kind of look at icons on a screen, be able to tap your fingers together to then click on icons, should be a great accessibility feature for people using iPads and using them without the actual touch interface. So that coming to iPadOS 18, definitely stay subscribed, because I'm going to be putting that through its paces to see exactly how viable of a solution and feature that is. And then my last little, I guess, hope or wish list item for iPadOS 18 is that we get some M4 iPad Pro specific features that kind of make it worthwhile to upgrade to the M4 iPad Pro. Again, if you can give us some sort of macOS-like experience that makes it a little bit easier to then use your iPad, let's say with a secondary display or something that makes it a little bit more familiar, I think it would go a long way in terms of the iPad user base in order to be able to use it as your main computer. Again, for me, my iPad, the way that it is, works perfectly as my main computer with iPadOS 17.5 and all the ups and downs that comes with that, but I know a lot of people want to use this form factor and they want the iPad Pro to be a true Microsoft Surface competitor, so maybe Apple giving us some iPad Pro M4 exclusive features could be the way to go this year with iPadOS 18. But now let's migrate over to VisionOS. So this is going to be the second iteration of VisionOS, VisionOS 2. Again, I actually sold my Vision Pro because aside from it being a wonderful toy to show off and some kind of awesome features that are very magical, for the most part, my $4,000 is much better spent in other avenues and other tech items and just other ways, right? Because for right now, the way that I was using the Vision Pro, again, it's awesome, and I think there's definitely a future in it, and some of the technology and the software that they were implementing is absolutely out of this world. But there isn't really too much that I can personally do with it, but that's not to say other people have been really maximizing the Vision Pro. Like I know some people on Twitter love their Vision Pro and they stand by it and it is their productivity machine. But for me, I'm gonna hold off for a little while longer. But when it comes to the Vision Pro and VisionOS and what to expect, there isn't gonna be too much. It's all gonna be kind of quality of life improvements, like being able to rearrange your home screen applications finally. Very similar to how we went from Phone OS 1 to Phone OS 2 back with the first iPhone and the second iPhone. Apple's also set to actually build some native applications for the Apple Vision Pro as opposed to kind of just using the iPad version of a native application. So look for some applications like calendar, reminders, news to have a VisionOS specific application versus just the iPad Pro version of that application put onto VisionOS. And then lastly, with the Vision Pro, it's not really software related, but Apple is set to debut their international release of the Vision Pro, and it's going to be going to Germany, France, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and China. So definitely see a rollout relatively soon is my expectation. I bet you Apple announces exactly when, but over the next couple of weeks, maybe to a month, expect those Vision Pros to actually be released overseas. So finally, other people besides people here in the US will be able to get their hands on it. And then when it comes to the rest of the software space, so we have macOS 15, watchOS 11, and then tvOS 18. Don't expect too much with those updates. They're probably also going to get all the AI features, or at least the AI related features in their subset of software when it comes trickling down from iOS 18, but there isn't going to be any overhauls, nothing too crazy when it comes to feature sets. Like I'm sure with watchOS 11, we'll get some additional workouts, some additional wash faces, but nothing out of this world that'll really kind of get you excited to go out and maybe purchase an Apple Watch that is compatible with watchOS 11. So that is a complete roundup of what to expect at WWDC. It's probably going to last about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and there is zero expectation of any new hardware being released at this WWDC, which is a little bit disappointing because last year we did get the announcement of the Vision Pro as well as some revamped iMacs and things like that. But again, this year we're not expecting to get any hardware, which again, to each their own, which I think is also a good thing to really focus in on the software and see what Apple's giving us. And I personally will be installing iPadOS 18 Beta 1 and iOS 18 Beta 1 on both of my main devices, so definitely stay subscribed. We'll have a bunch of video content, a bunch of recap content, and also some first use and hands-on with these new softwares because it should be interesting to see what Apple gives us overall. So leave a comment down below. What is one thing that you really want out of iOS or iPadOS or of any of these updates? Is it a wish list item? Is it something that you think is realistic that Apple's going to be releasing? Because I do think this AI craze is going to it's definitely going to help out in some areas. It's going to make your life a little bit more efficient. Siri will get smarter, but I don't think it's going to be like a night and day kind of, wow moment where like, oh my goodness, my iPhone is now so much smarter and now I want to use it so much more because it does have ChatGPT integration. But to each their own, let me know in the comment down below what you think. Are you excited for it? Are you tempering your expectations a little bit? Or is it kind of like same old now with WWDC since everything has reached this level of maturity now? Now we just need like other form factors or something completely different to really get us excited. But that's going to do it for this video. If you made it to the end, leave a little dolphin in the comments down below so I know that you made it to the end. And if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, click on one of these right here. And until next time, I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here, everybody. Peace. Let me know what you guys think about this new A-roll talking situation. I seem to really like it.